25 hours after it vanished, a passing passenger ferry spotted an obstruction floating in the Pentland Firth. It was the inverted hull of the Cemfjord. The vessel was a specialized carrier loaded with over 2,000 tons of bulk cement. None of the 8 crew members on board survived. Commercial ships operating in these waters are outfitted with a suite of automated distress systems. Yet, as the Cemfjord sank, neither the crew nor the ship's hardware transmitted a single alert. To determine how a fully crewed ship can disappear in total silence, investigators had to reconstruct the vessel's final days, pulling together automatic identification system tracks, coastal radar pings, and localized weather hindcasts. The complete absence of an emergency broadcast indicates the crew had no time to reach the radio, and the automated systems were physically disabled before they could deploy. The ship experienced an event of immediate, overwhelming violence. The timeline of the collapse begins 3 days earlier and hundreds of miles away at the Aalborg Portland terminal in Denmark. During the initial loading phase, the crew started taking on cement while simultaneously pumping out water from the ballast tanks to maintain stability. But the port ballast pump failed to discharge the water effectively. This CCTV footage shows the baseline status of the ship during the early stages of the operation. The vessel is sitting perfectly upright, and the terminal's loading trunk is running in a straight vertical line down into the hold. This second CCTV image shows the physical consequence of the failing pump. The extra retained water has caused the Cemfjord to list 5 degrees to port. Shore workers had to halt the loading entirely to prevent the trunk from fracturing. To correct the imbalance, the ship's agent had to locate a portable, submersible pump from a local supplier and deliver it to the dock so the crew could manually deballast the port tanks. By the time the temporary pump was rigged and the cargo holds were full, the ship was heavily delayed. This mechanical friction at the dock meant the master was already operating at a severe time deficit before the ship even reached open water. This chart maps the Cemfjord's intended route across the North Sea, through the Pentland Firth, down to Runcorn. Driving into a low-pressure system and heavy seas, speed dropped from 9.2 to 5.8 knots, pushing the estimated arrival back by 2 full days. Fully laden with cement, the low-riding hull plunged into severe ocean swells. The environment was actively degrading the vessel's forward progress. At 10:52 a.m. on January 2nd, the master radioed the Coast Guard to log his entry into the voluntary reporting scheme area for the Pentland Firth. Despite receiving a coastal forecast predicting force 9 gales, he committed to detransit. The pressure to deliver the cargo had collided with the delays accumulated at the dock. Turning back or sheltering meant accepting further schedule losses, and the master chose to press on. The Pentland Firth is a narrow channel that funnels immense volumes of water between the Atlantic Ocean and the North Sea. On that afternoon, the outgoing tidal stream was flowing westward at 6 knots. Simultaneously, the low-pressure system drove a 40 to 56-knot westerly gale directly into the mouth of the channel. When high-velocity wind pushes against an opposing tide, the energy has nowhere to go but up. This forces the wave faces to steepen rapidly, breaking their normal rhythm and creating abnormal 10-meter peaks with deep vertical troughs. This chart plots the vessel's final AIS broadcasts in the channel. Struggling against the amplified sea state, the data abruptly stops at exactly 13:15. Cresting a massive abnormal peak, the ship's center of gravity shifted violently, permanently losing its righting lever. The ship capsized so rapidly that it inverted before the crew could react. The hydrostatic release unit on the ship's emergency beacon requires depth to trigger. Because the hull floated upside down, the beacon remained physically trapped underneath the waterlines of the ship, unable to float free and transmit. The complete radio silence was the direct result of a predictable hydrodynamic trap, instantly erasing the ship's intact stability. This search map plots the massive recovery operation launched the following day across the Firth and the surrounding coastlines. Coast Guard helicopters eventually located one of the ship's life rafts floating empty in the North Sea. Its undeployed state confirmed that the crew had zero opportunity to initiate standard abandoned ship procedures. Further investigation revealed that the Cemfjord had sailed with critical equipment deficiencies. Flag state authorities had granted regulatory exemptions, allowing the ship to operate with a broken rescue boat davit and defective bilge pumps in the void spaces beneath the cargo holds. Safe navigation through severe coastal topography requires dynamic passage planning. This protocol mandates that static route plans must be aborted if the vessel cannot hit specific safe tidal windows where the current and wind align. The Cemfjord was heavily delayed by mechanical failures before it even left port. The master chose to push a heavily loaded ship, operating with degraded safety equipment, directly into opposing tidal forces to recover a lost schedule. The resulting capsize left no time for a distress call.